A little bit controversial, but I think it is oftentimes better to rent than it is to purchase a home. I hear a lot of people in my industry say, why rent when you could own? Well, there's a lot of reasons actually. I'm going to touch on specifically in the Midwest and Central Iowa in a second, but just broad strokes, all across America, there are a few really good reasons why you should rent instead of purchasing a home. First of all, there are a lot of costs associated with purchasing and selling homes. So if you buy a home, let's say it's $100,000 for simple math's sake, let's assume it's going to appreciate about 4% every year in value. If you're going to sell that home in 2 years for $108,000, all of that equity that you had gained in the home from when you purchase it and when you sell it, you have closing costs to pay for your loan and for the sale when you hire a realtor for your abstracting. So if you know that you're moving in less than 2 years, obviously you can never know for sure. That's just one of the risks of life is sometimes there's work relocations or there's family issues that come up and you have to move. And so that's always a risk. But a home is a long-term investment. You should not buy it and bank on being able to sell it for a profit in a couple of years. If you're okay for some tolerance for risk, or if you're planning on renovating the home and really know what you're getting into, then yes, that is absolutely okay. However, if you're really nervous about losing money on your home when it comes time to sell, and you don't have a plan to add equity through renovations or projects, and you don't think you're going to live there for more than a couple of years, then I would say you're going to be better off renting than owning. Another good reason you should rent instead of own is if you don't have enough savings built up to where you can handle home maintenance items as they come up. If I'm renting an apartment or a condo or a house, and my water heater, furnace, and air conditioner all break down in the same day, I know that seems very unlikely, but I'm sure it's happened to someone in the history of time. If that happens and I'm renting, my landlord is responsible to replace those. But if that happens and I own my home, then I'm out about $10,000. If I don't have those $10,000, I'm going into debt in order to get those things because you need those things. And I've heard the argument too, well, you're building wealth. You're paying your own mortgage, not someone else's, if you own rather than rent. And that is very, very true. And I love that about owning a home. But you're also paying mostly interest in those first few years of home ownership called an amortization schedule. I'm not going to jump into it in too much detail in this video, but you can Google it. Amortization schedule. Super confusing. Kind of sucks when you realize how it works. It benefits the banks a lot, but it also makes it so that we're not paying down that much of our loan balance in our first few years of ownership. Now, in Central Iowa, I just want to look at a couple examples of what it would look like to rent a home right now rather than to buy one and have mortgage payments. I'm going to go in the Johnston-Grimes neighborhood just because that's where I live, but this can apply to anywhere in the metro in the world and can be helpful when you're trying to figure out, is it going to make more sense for my budget and for my long-term financial goals to rent or to own? In Johnston-Grimes right now, if I want to rent an apartment, I'm probably looking at $1,500 a month for a 3-bed apartment. If I get down to 2 bedrooms, I'm looking at $1,200 to $1,000 a month. And if I get down to 1 bedroom, I'm looking a little lower than that. I'm considering whether or not I should rent one of those apartments or if I should buy an apartment with similar finishes. Well, if I have 10% to put down, and a similar style apartment is probably going to cost anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000, maybe a little bit lower depending on the size and the finishes. If I find an $150,000 apartment, I do a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and I'm putting 10% down at a 7% interest rate. That's the 30-year national average today. My homeowner's insurance is probably going to be $500 a month, we'll say, for an apartment because it's just walls-in insurance. Property taxes, we can estimate $2,500. PMI, since I'm only doing 10% down. And then we also have HOA dues to consider. I'm going to be looking at $1,400 a month in my mortgage payments. So that's pretty similar, maybe a little bit higher than what I would be paying to rent that type of apartment. But if I am going to look at renting a home, a single family home, the cheapest single family home I can rent in Johnston or Grimes is $1,850 a month. So if I run the math on that, that home probably would cost about $350,000 for me to buy. Actually, let's be a little more conservative. Let's say $325,000. My down payment is going to be $33,000, 10%. Interest rate again is 7. Home insurance is going to be about $1,500. Property taxes $4,500. EMI again, but no HOA dues. Well, for this scenario, my monthly payments on a home of that size compared to renting are going to be about $500 to $800 more for my mortgage than they would be for rent. There are so many long-term benefits to home ownership. In a study recently done by the Federal Reserve, they found that people in America who own homes have a net worth that's around 40 times higher than people who rent. You're building equity for yourself, and you're creating long-term wealth for your family. And you have a place to call your own. So I don't want this to seem like I'm ratting on home ownership. I love home ownership, but you have to consider the risks and figure out, is it going to be better for you right now to rent a home and be free from some of those stressors, or to start that journey of home ownership and growing that wealth? If you're trying to decide whether or not you should rent or own, you're moving to central Iowa or within central Iowa, please give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, reach out anytime. I would be honored to get to help you think through that process and help you make an informed decision with confidence. And yeah, just let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help you. If you have a second, you can like and subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. I appreciate you guys.